tonight we have just the huge pleasure of having Erica Meier with us, and she is the executive director of Compassion Over Killing, a national animal advocacy group. And a little bit about her background: she became vegetarian in high school, partly because her father was in the meat packing business, and she would go do kind of secretarial support in the meat plant in the office, and there would be hanging carcasses there. And so she had, kind of early direct experience with where meat really comes from. And then became vegan in college, worked for PETA, became executive director of Compassion Over Killing, and she'll tell you about the wonderful things that group does. The one thing I wanted to tell you about, though, is that last year she received the Shining Compassion Award. Is this Shining World Compassion Award. And so I just love that. The Shining World Compassion Award. We know someone that has received that award from Shanghai, the Supreme Master, and that group identified Erica and her group as this wonderful example of compassion in the world, and gave her this wonderful award and a huge $10,000 grant. So it's like, yeah, so just an amazing, wonderful thing. And if you are interested in seeing that ceremony and a little bit about that, that's on YouTube. Just look for Erica Meier, and it's a beautiful 5-minute kind of ceremony interview that I really enjoyed. So anyway, that's you can learn more about Erica from the YouTube video. So right now, please help me welcome Erica Meier.
Thank you. I think it's on. And are there lights that we can turn down a little bit to make this a little bit easier to see? Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight, and I was hoping while you were mentioning the award and the big check that there was another surprise big check that was coming out and being delivered. It was really exciting. That award was such an honor, but it was really actually exciting too to also, you only see those commercials for clearinghouse, and they deliver those huge checks, and they actually brought one of those monstrous checks to our office to deliver it. So no balloons though, but it was really exciting. But thank you, Brad, for introducing me. My name, again, is Erica Meier with Compassion Over Killing. How many of you guys are familiar with our organization? Okay, so most of you, that's fantastic. Well, just to give a quick recap of the work that we do to give you some background on us, we're a nonprofit farmed animal advocacy organization. We are based in Washington, D.C., but we work nationally on exposing cruelty to farmed animals and encouraging people to make more compassionate choices and leave animals off their plates. And we formed in 1995 as a high school club in the D.C. area. And we've grown since then, hired our first staff member in 2001. And when we first started, we worked on a lot of different issues. And in 2001, as we hired our first employee, decided to really focus down on specific issues and decided to focus exclusively on animals raised for food, since these are animals who are raised and killed in the greatest numbers in our country, and they're also denied legal protections and treated in the most unimaginable ways that we would never imagine treating dogs and cats with whom we share our home. So we have a number of different campaigns that we take on, but before I get too far into the this is going to be largely focusing on how many of you are vegetarian or vegan, and not to point out, who is still eating meat potentially, but I think my job's done, so everyone here is. So thanks for coming. I really appreciate it. So I am going to be focusing a lot more on campaigning than talking about farmed animal issues, specifically with factory farming, but I think it's also important that we all know those issues so that we can articulate them to other people. So I'm going to touch a little bit upon that, but I really want to thank Brad for putting this event on. And you guys just changed your name, and he surprised me after I had put this together, and there's a new name for the organization.
Compassionate Living Outreach Sonoma County Vegan Society.
There you go. And so there's a website being developed and everything. So this is now a defunct name, so sorry about that. I'm a little behind the times. But a huge congratulations, or thank you for, to all the work that you guys are doing and hosting this event and the other events for me. I met Brad a couple years ago at Animal Rights Conference. And we've stayed in touch since then, and so it's really an honor to be out here and speaking at your organization. So thank you. How many of you guys have dogs and cats? We have a couple of companion dogs here in the room, and a lot of us have grown up with dogs and cats, and that's one thing that when you think about you're vegan, and how much do you have in common with people you work with who might not be vegan, or your neighbors or friends and family who aren't vegan, and you feel like you're really alienated sometimes, like they don't quite understand why you're doing what you're doing. And when you look at the statistics, vegans are a very small minority in this country. But we have in common, we have a lot in common with the greater public, in that we all really care about animals. And I think that's evident by the companion animals that we bring into our homes. More than half of homes in America have at least one companion animal. And that means that we have shown this compassion that we have to bring these animals into our homes and care for them, provide them with the care that they need, veterinary treatments as necessary. We know their emotions when they're happy and they're sad. And so this is something we have in common with most people in America. We need to make that connection as we're talking about the circle of compassion and broadening our circle of compassion for other animals. A poll shows that 50% of pet owners consider their companion animals as much part of the family as any other person in the household. And that's a really powerful statistic that shows how much people truly care about these animals. And we know that all animals are capable of experiencing emotions. We know that all animals experience pain, they experience joy, they experience sorrow. And so animals who are in our homes have the same capacity to experience these emotions as the animals who we are raising on factory farms in this country. And we know that there is that connection. And to help people make that connection even further, these are statistics specifically from the industries that are showing not only do people care about companion animals, which we've established, but according to Ohio State University, 81% of people in their own poll said the well-being of farmed animals is as important as the well-being of companion animals. So we know that not only do people actually care about companion animals, they care about farmed animals. And according to an American Farm Bureau poll, they had 95% respondents that said it's important to me that farm animals are well cared for. So if we have all this information, why are these animals still being treated in these horrible ways, and why are they being raised and killed in such crazy numbers that we can barely even understand how many animals are being killed? How do we make that connection between the animals we know people care for, that we know they care about farm animals? Why are people still eating them, and how do we help people make that connection so they make more compassionate choices? And that's what I want to really focus on today. You go almost anywhere in this country and you can see advertisements everywhere for different animal foods. How many people were born vegetarian? Like, you've never ever eaten meat in your entire life? And as Brad pointed out, obviously I did not grow up as a vegetarian. Far from it. Like most Americans, I ate meat, and probably more meat than most people because it was a family business. But we develop these habits, and it's hard to break those habits sometimes. They're formed at a young age. But it's not just how they're being formed, it's also how they're being marketed to us. And we feel comfortable buying these foods because you can get a Happy Meal. And it's marketed specifically to make people feel happy and good about their purchases. They have kids singing songs about being an Oscar Meier wiener. I mean, these are meant to continue the habits that we're developing at a young age so that we continue buying these products. And of course, it's much easier for companies to market the end product of these foods than to tell people where these animals are really coming from. You would never even recognize that some of the products that you're buying and eating actually came from animals. And that's on purpose because Americans care about animals. We've established that. And so from egg-laying hens who are confined in these tiny wire cages to chickens who are raised specifically for their meat, and they're bred and drugged to grow so fast, so large, their bodies can barely even stand Their legs can barely even hold their bodies up, and they often suffer from leg deformities. We have veal calves who are taken away from their mothers in the dairy industry and then slaughtered after a short life. Pigs in the pig industry, these are female pigs who are raised specifically to be breeding machines. They are kept in these tiny immobilizing crates for nearly all of their lives. These are the standard conditions on factory farms, and this is what most people don't know about. This is what the industry doesn't want people to see. And so what our job as animal activists is to bring factory farms to the public, because the public is not allowed on factory farms. And so we need to let people know where their food is coming from and let them make more informed choices, because when people know the truth and they know what's going on, most people do not want to support this type of animal cruelty. But so how do we do that? That's the mission.
So is that a federal mandate or law that the public's not allowed? And what's the history behind that?
No, they're all private facilities, and so they make right. It's like, if you don't want to let somebody inside your home, you don't have to. And so yeah, it's all private land. And so in addition to these facilities being closed doors facilities so you can't see what's going on, there are very few laws to protect them. And most people don't understand. They know that there are laws to protect dogs and cats. We're familiar with our anti-cruelty laws on a state level. And in most states, these animals are not protected. Farmed animals are exempted oftentimes from state law, or there are farmed animal practices, whatever is considered common on an agricultural facility. Normal agricultural operations are often phrases you'll see that are exempted from state protection laws. And on a federal level, these animals raised on farms, when the farm animals are living on the farm and they're living in these intensive confinement systems, there are no federal laws whatsoever to protect them. And so this is how they spend their lives, in these miserable conditions. And food is such an important part of everything in our lives. It's the social fabric that keeps us together. It's birthday parties and holidays and summer celebrations, and you go to the ballpark, and it's in the schools. And so food is, we come together as a society through food more than we even realize. Food is what brings us together. And so changing those habits can sometimes be hard for people, because it's not just changing what you eat, you're changing some of those social connections that you've made. And so helping people discover the foods that they can eat, and discover that changing your diet doesn't mean you have to change your social habits. You can still maintain all of those family connections and social connections without feeling like you're an outsider. How many people have talked with non-vegetarians, and you say, I'm vegetarian or I'm vegan, and they say back to you like, oh, that's really great. I mean, I could never do that, but that's so good for you, right? And that's a very common response, and it's because people think about a vegetarian diet like this. They think of it as something that is just incredibly impossible. This is an uphill battle. Like, what do you eat? I can't even imagine. And it's so hard, good for you, but it's just not for me. I don't have the willpower. I wouldn't know what to do. My husband makes dinner on Fridays, or my mom has us over for this, or, so it's all these excuses coming up why it's so difficult for people. So if we're going to help people choose more compassionate foods, we need not just to let them understand how these animals are being treated. It's such a vital component to make sure people know where their food comes from, to know what they're eating and know who they're eating. But once people learn that, what's next? Because a growing number of people are morally aligned with our issues. They do disagree strongly with how animals are being treated on these factory farming facilities. And I think Proposition 2 passing a couple years ago here in California is a really important indicator of that some of these practices are too cruel for the overwhelming majority of voters in California to want to support, and we're seeing this across the country. But now what? What do they do next? They understand the issues, they don't know what to do next. So our job as animal activists is to make vegetarian eating seem like this. It's fun, everybody wants to do it, there's no challenges whatsoever. It is just, and that is what vegetarian eating to us truly is. It's not challenging to us because we're there. But to somebody who's new to it and thinks of vegetarian eating as an uphill battle, we need to help them along that path. And there are so many different ways to do that. And that's what I want to really focus on, is how can we get people from thinking about vegetarian eating from this to this? How do we get people to make that transition? Well, we want people certainly to line up and understand vegetarian eating is on the rise. These foods are growing in number in restaurants and grocery stores. We want people to feel like they are lining up with the growing trend of choosing vegetarian and vegan foods. This is how we want people to think of it. It's not the uphill battle anymore. It's the path that everybody is starting to take. And that's what we need to focus on in our campaigning. So we'll see polls that are showing that a growing number of Americans are starting to choose vegetarian foods. According to a poll that was done by Vegetarian Times in 2008, 7.3 million Americans consider themselves to be vegetarian. What's more important, though, about this poll is that 22.8 million more Americans consider themselves vegetarian inclined. These are people who are choosing vegetarian foods, but they don't quite yet identify as a full-time 100% vegetarian. But they are choosing more and more vegan foods and reducing their consumption of animal products. And this is the market that we need to tie into and help them further along the path and help them bring their friends and family into the fold as well to reduce their consumption of animal products and hopefully eliminate them altogether. So vegetarian dining, how many people, like maybe a decade ago, if you've been vegetarian or vegan for that long, would go to a restaurant and there'd be nothing on the menu and you'd have to pull the waiter to the side and say, hey, I'm vegetarian, do you have anything I can eat? And they might bring you like a plain baked potato, or basically restaurants would often think of vegetarian meals as the main dish without the meat, and you're left with a little sprig of parsley. You're left with the side dish. You're left with nothing really substantial. Certainly no protein because you're eating maybe steamed vegetables. But what we're seeing now is that you don't have to do that anymore. In most restaurants today, we're seeing that vegetarian eating is moving from the margins to the mainstream. That every place from fast food to 4-star restaurants are recognizing that these meals are in more and more demand and that they are offering more vegan and vegetarian options on the menu. And when we see vegetarian and vegan options increasingly on the menu, we know that this means it makes it easier for non-vegans and vegetarians to start choosing these options. So if these, before I get into a lot of the campaigning, I want to show some other trends that we're seeing. A couple of years ago, I don't know if you guys saw, there was some major articles about in the city of Chicago. The health commissioner there, for the entire month of January, encouraged Chicagoans to stop eating animal foods. And this was in the city of Chicago, which is certainly not the most veg-friendly town in the history. But the Chicago Health Commissioner has a message for Chicagoans who enjoy devouring meat in all of its fat-dripping, artery-clogging glory. Don't do it. This is the health commissioner who went vegetarian for the entire month of January and encouraged Chicago residents to do the same thing. And this was a campaign that he had run for a couple of years. And in the city of Cincinnati, we're seeing, from a different angle, there's an environmental aspect here. The city of Cincinnati, according to this article, is doing what it's supposed to do. It's informing and advising its citizens about what is best for themselves and the planet. Eat more fruits and vegetables, cut back on the meat. This is a government agency that is telling its own residents in the city of Cincinnati, you know what, it's probably better if we stopped eating as much animal foods and added more plant-based foods to our diet. And so this is legitimizing the issue from an entity that's not a crazy animal rights organization with a vegan agenda. This is a legitimate concern that's being told to you by authorities that people often respect. Are you guys familiar with in Ghent, Belgium? A couple of years ago, this city in Belgium declared Veggie Day, which every Thursday they declare Veggie Day and encourage people in this city to go vegetarian for one day. But even better is that the government cafeterias are vegetarian for one day. And this introduces people to more and more meatless options. And what else is going on in the United States? Well, we have week going on here in Tacoma, or not here in Tacoma Park, Maryland, which is an event that our organization started a couple years ago. We have we're in Tacoma Park, Maryland, our organization's office is, and we have a state representative, our state senator Jamie Raskin, who one day in 2009 in January. I got a phone call from a very local paper. And the local paper said, hey, we're doing this little story on resolutions, and we want to know, from you, what do you think are some really effective ways that people can help the planet? And so he rattled off a few things, change your light bulbs, whatever, and then he ended by saying, and animal agriculture is really bad on the environment. If everybody went vegetarian for a week, that would probably be a good thing. And so I saw that, called him up, said, Senator Raskin, really, would you go vegetarian for the week? And he was like, yeah. I mean, maybe if there was a whole Veg Week celebration. So we declared Tacoma Park Veg Week in his honor. And a couple months after he made that statement, we had an event going on. We got a proclamation signed by our mayor recognizing Senator Raskin for going vegetarian for the week, recognizing our organization for putting on this event. It was in the local papers everywhere that Senator goes vegetarian for the week, from meat and potatoes to let's meat for potatoes. And it was a really big story. And more importantly, though, is interestingly, after the first week of him, and he spoke at a kickoff party for us, and we had hundreds of people sign up to pledge to go vegetarian for the week. And after the week was up, Senator Raskin called me and he said, hey, I wanted to let you know it was really, really eye-opening for me. I feel so much better after even just a week of not eating meat. I'm going to do it for 2 weeks. And I was like, great, fantastic. And this whole time, I'm giving him ideas of where to go eat, and we would meet at different restaurants that he wanted to try out. And he said everyone was calling him from the community saying, hey, that's so great, come over to my house for dinner. And he said this was the friendliest group of people he'd ever met in his life. And so 2 weeks goes by, and I give him a call, and I was like, Senator Raskin, how's it going? He's like, I'm so glad you called because I feel really good. I'm going to go for a full month, I think. And I was like, why not? Why wouldn't you, right? Absolutely. So the month was up. I give him another call. How'd the month go? What do you think? And he's like, I feel really good. Like, I can't really think of any reason to stop. I mean, I don't know. It feels good. And so I said to him, it's now into May, and I said, we're just starting planning for our Washington, D.C. Veg Fest, and we're looking for speakers, and I think you would be a really phenomenal speaker. You care so much about the environment. You've done so much in our community, but all the speakers need to be vegetarian. So I just want to throw that idea out there. We'd really love to have you, with the understanding, though, that we're looking for speakers who are vegetarian. So he said, oh, yeah, no, that makes sense. It sounds really great. Let me think about that for a little while, and I'll get back to you. If I'm going to do this, I want to make sure I'm going to do this. So I said, absolutely, no problem. Just give me a call back whenever you feel ready. Just let me know. And he lives right by our office, so I see him a lot in the community as well. So he called me up the next day, first thing in the morning, and said, sign me up. And he has been a vegetarian to this day. He is still a vegetarian. He's very outspoken about the issues, and he's recruiting other people to sign up. After we had our 2009 Veg Week, he wanted us to expand it. We had an entire Maryland Veg Week, and we got our mayor to sign another proclamation, but in addition we got a proclamation from our county in the area, and the state capital city of Annapolis signed a proclamation, and we had 7 different representatives from local to state to federal. Donna Edwards, our federal representative, signed on to go vegetarian for the week, and several of these representatives have permanently reduced the amount of meat that they're eating, and 2 of them have said that they would pretty much call themselves a vegetarian, and they want to get involved with the Maryland Veg Week that we're having again in 2011. And these are all elected officials who came to a kickoff party that we had, and we had 100 people or so there at this event, and they're talking to the community about why they're choosing to go vegetarian for the week, and why it's so important to choose healthier foods that are more sustainable and foods that also help to reduce animal suffering. And these are our elected officials making these decisions and making these public statements on these issues. So it's really exciting to see. We actually brought this to Los Angeles last year in the summer, and we also had state and federal representatives sign on to go vegetarian for the week. We had another kickoff party here. We got a representative to give us a certificate of recognition for our efforts to not only work with representatives to get them to go vegetarian for the week, but these events also work with restaurants in the area to add more vegan options for the week or to offer discounts on their vegan meals, and to work with other companies that are veg-friendly so that people know where they can go to get more vegetarian options. So these are the types of campaigns that we've started running that we have found to be incredibly positive. A great number of supporters are signing on. We've had hundreds and hundreds of people who are not vegetarian who are signing on to go vegetarian for the week. We give them everything they could possibly need to make it happen. We have daily emails going out with recipes and meal ideas and where to go eat. And so these have been really, really successful events. We've also seen some movement in the government in other ways, not just signing on to go vegetarian for the week through these Veg Week campaigns, but much like in Belgium, we had in San Francisco, and Hope is right here, Hope Bahanek, I hope you guys all know her. She is the woman behind this initiative that the city of San Francisco declared Monday Vegetarian Day, in which they're encouraging residents to go vegetarian for at least one day per week. And this was the first city in the U.S. to officially declare a meatless Monday and encouraging residents to take on a new diet for one full day. And Hope is the reason that that happened. Excellent. Trying to implement meatless Mondays in the school system. Well, we were so inspired after Hope got this initiative through in San Francisco that we had to bring it to D.C. And we got D.C. to sign a Meat-Free Mondays resolution in which the representative who drafted this resolution encouraged residents to abstain from animal products on every single Monday. And this was largely done because of health issues in the school system. We are also trying to use it in the school system to push meatless Mondays there as well, as and using it to prompt other communities to adopt healthier foods for their school children. But what the point of all of this is that as we are going in the right direction, we're seeing all this movement. We can't just rest on our laurels. We can't just be like, oh, we're doing such a great job. Look at all of this. We can't just sit around and be lazy and feel like we're accomplishing so much we can take a break. Because we can't take a break. We have to keep this momentum moving forward. We have to keep going with it. Because every single day we know animals are being killed for food. And every single day we have an opportunity to change somebody's mind about what they're eating and to make a difference in the lives of animals. So some of the campaigns that I want to talk about are very food-oriented. Now, how many people, when you tell someone you're vegetarian, they're like, what do you eat? Exactly. I just don't know. I would eat more vegetarian, but I have no idea what you eat. And so this is a major question that we get, is more people are becoming curious about trying vegetarian foods and they don't know what they should be eating. So what we need to do, this is another reaction that you might get when you tell people you're vegetarian. They're like, ah, that's disgusting. Like, we were actually talking about this earlier today. How many of you brought in foods for your coworkers or family and said, hey, you guys want to try a vegan cupcake? And they're like, oh, vegan, I don't really want to do that. Or you encourage people to try different foods. They like it until you tell them that it's vegan. And so people have, these stereotypes in their head. They have this idea that vegan food equals bad, equals not tasting so good. And so we need to convince people, you know what, giving up meat doesn't mean giving up the taste that we love. It just means choosing the cruelty-free versions of our favorite foods. And this is a great way to help people transition towards a vegetarian diet. You can still eat pizza. It just has soy cheese on it instead of dairy-based cheese. You can eat hot dogs and sausages and burgers. They're just the cruelty-free versions of these foods, and we're finding these foods available in more and more grocery stores across the country, making it easier. So using food as one of the main ways to outreach to people. Food is so powerful in our society, and when we use food as a part of the events to encourage people to learn more about vegetarian eating, we're seeing that people are making changes, because when we use food as outreach, as one of the major tools for outreach, everybody eats, and we know this. So everybody has to eat, and so you just give them some free samples of food or encourage them to eat foods that are vegetarian or vegan. There are a lot of different ways that we can make that happen, but when we give people food to eat, we know that we're showing them that vegan food can be good, that vegan food can be just as tasty as what you're used to, and that vegan food is everywhere, that you don't have to go to the health food store that's hidden around the corner behind this, store in this other part of the neighborhood you've never been to. You can go to your local grocery store that you've always shopped at and just go down a different aisle to get a slightly different product that's not made with animal foods. So we need to show people that vegan food is good and that vegan food is easily accessible. So it makes those social hurdles easier to climb, and it makes it easier not just to become vegan, but to stay vegan. We have a couple different tools that we use to do that, and one of them is a feed-in. Have you guys know what a feed-in is? Who here has hosted a feed-in? I know Hope has. So a feed-in is a really great outreach tool. You're basically feeding free food to non-vegans. It's going on a busy street corner, in a festival, someplace where a lot of people are at, and you bring free food. You're distributing free vegan food samples along, of course, always have to have literature so people have information to learn more about these issues. You're giving them recipes and other information about animal-friendly foods, and you're empowering them to make more compassionate choices. When we have hosted feed-ins, the response has always been amazing. We've never had a bad reaction to hosting a feed-in. Sure, some people walk by and they don't want to taste it, but when people do stop by, and most people will not turn down free food, they'll sample it and say, "That's chicken?" Or "No, it's vegetarian." "No, that's chicken." And we're like, no, it's vegetarian. Here's the product packaging, here's where you can buy it, here's how to prepare it. And so people never knew that vegetarians could eat like this, and wow, really, that there's no meat in there. These are the reactions that people have. And so hosting a feed-in is a really great way to reach out to people, not just with literature, but now you're giving them something to taste, something that they can walk away with saying, you know what, that was really good. I would eat more of that. And now they have the tools to help make that happen. We've hosted these outside metro stations, at festivals. We often have a banner that tells people that we have free food so they know they can stop by. And you can get funding through an organization called vegfund.org, and they will help give you, if you fill out a grant request, they'll help give you some funding to go buy the food, or you can work with a local restaurant or grocery store to donate the food, and you just prepare it. You go on a busy street corner, you have somebody serve it and somebody else leafleting, giving people materials, and you are changing people's minds right there with the food. And like I said, we've never had a bad response. In fact, we had one group recently, at the most recent feed-in we had a group of college kids, a bunch of guys walk by, and they did not want to sample the food. Oh, no, thank you. And then they decided to tease one of the guys and say, no, you try it. And he didn't want to try it, and they just kept teasing him, so he said, fine, I'm going to try it. And he ate it. He's like, wow, that's really good. And then everyone dove in and wanted to try a piece. And they had no idea that you can have vegetarian foods that taste as good as they do. So this is a great tool that you guys can use. And we have tools on our website for how to host a feed-in, different steps to take in order to host a feed-in, and things that are helpful to getting it moving.
Really quick about feed-in.
Yeah.
Next week, if anyone's interested in seeing it in action, we're going to be giving away 500 tofurkey sandwiches at a peace rally.
Yay.
Meet Out for the Meet Out event this month in the city in San Francisco. So if anyone's interested in helping make the 500 tofurkey sandwiches the night before and distributing them, you can talk to me this coming weekend.
Oh, wonderful. It's a great way to learn all about hosting feed-ins and the positive responses that people have to these events. Another way that we started reaching out with food is restaurants, because everyone goes to restaurants. The National Restaurant Association estimates that there are 54 billion meals served each year in restaurants and cafeterias nationwide. And 54 billion meals being served. That's so many opportunities for us to show people that there are options on menus that are meat-free. And so what we've done is we started working with restaurants in our community to add these options on their menu. We've reached out to them and said, these are in demand in our city, this is what people want, and we can help you make that happen. So we're reaching out to restaurants because our goal is to increase the number of vegan options available in the marketplace, making it easier for people everywhere to choose compassion. And the ultimate goal is to significantly reduce the demand for animal products, both in the wholesale corporate marketplace as well as in the individual restaurants that we're working with. And it's a win for consumers, it's a win for restaurants, and it's a win for animals. Because every time somebody chooses a vegetarian meal, they are making a difference. And when we work with restaurants, we encourage them to promote the options inside the restaurant. So people who would otherwise go there and order regular meals are now seeing vegetarian menu or vegetarian options now available. And so they're recognizing this is the regular restaurant I go to, and look at these new options. We're planting this seed of compassion. We're encouraging them to try different foods. And we're also getting more people into the restaurant who have been looking for these vegetarian options, and now they have a place to go. And so some of the campaigns that we've been running, how many people have been in DC before to Java Green? One, oh, a couple people have. Java Green is a local cafe in downtown DC. They have like a coffee in the morning and sort of like a rush lunch during day. They're in the middle of downtown DC, right off of K Street. And they had a couple of very minor, not very exciting vegetarian options. And they have a very eco-friendly messaging, though. And so we went in there and said, hey, you know, it's great that you have these vegetarian options on your menu. Have you thought about offering more? Maybe adding some vegan options and expanding the menu to incorporate some meals that you know, really appeal to the vegan community. And they said, yeah, we've been thinking about that, actually. I think it'd be really good. And it turns out that one of the owners was a vegetarian. And so he was very excited to try and come up with some new menu ideas. And they came up with this absolutely fabulous menu. And we said, you know, what do you think about launching the menu and hosting a vegan day event? You know, take meat, milk, and eggs completely off the menu for one day, and just launching it and really highlighting these new amazing options that you have available. And they said, sure, we'll host a vegan day event. This was back in 2003. It was the restaurant's busiest day in their history. The lines were out the door. And so after that, they recognized there's such a demand for this. And they then started offering their regular menu the next day that included all of these new vegan options. But after a couple of months, they had all these customers, regular customers, coming in curious about these vegan options. And they started ordering the chicken that was not really chicken, but it was a chicken sandwich, and liking it and realizing it tastes good, it's better for their health. And their regular customers started coming in and ordering these vegetarian options. And so they decided, you know, we could pull this off, I think, and really do this right. We can take meat completely off the menu, and that's what they did in 2004. They became a 100% vegetarian, near vegan restaurant, and they have since won multiple awards because their food is absolutely amazing. And just this year, they opened up a vegan cafe in DC as well. So this is all from a restaurant outreach, just going into a restaurant and saying, hey, what do you think about adding more vegan options onto your menu? And it does take some working. You know, you have to call them, follow up, help them with a menu. But this is the result. Is now, they say in Java Green, they say that 70 to 80% of their customers are not vegetarian or vegan. They're meat eaters who are looking for a healthy, tasty meal. And they're coming to Java Green and they're ordering vegetarian foods. Because they like the taste and they like the restaurant. And so these are people who would otherwise continue going there and eating meat, and now they're eating the vegetarian versions of the foods that they're used to. We have worked with dozens of restaurants in the DC area to add these options to the menu. And it's, we work with other restaurants, and last year we had several restaurants who were so excited about the work that we were doing, they started hosting Vegan Day celebrations. We had one restaurant that in all of April, all the weekends in April, they took meat, milk, and eggs completely off the menu in honor of Earth Day. They dedicated April to that, and they were all benefits. All those weekends were benefits for Compassion Over Killing. We had another restaurant, they went vegan two years in a row on Earth Day. Busiest day in their restaurant's history, and it was busier than during the Obama inauguration. They said that it's been so popular, they are now celebrating Meatless Mondays. After we passed the Meat-Free Mondays resolution in DC, they decided to make their menu on every single Monday 100% meatless. And they have found, the owner of that restaurant was a little skeptical. She thought, what if, you know, the customers come in and they don't really like it, they're not happy, they want their regular food and it's not there. You know, but she's vegetarian and she's really committed to making this happen. And so their first Meatless Monday, she said this guy walked in, regular customer, and he ordered his food, and you know, she was there and said, you know, it's our first Meatless Monday, I'm really sorry this is not available, would you like something else? And he was kind of like, ugh. And so she decided, well, I'm going to try and make him happy, I'll just give him a free meal. So she gave him a free meal and he walked away. It's a little carry-out place as well. So then Monday comes along again, he comes in, and she's like, oh, you're back, that's so great. And he's like, oh, it's Meatless Monday. And so she said, you know, oh, no, but try this today. Like, I think you'll really like it. It's really good. And so he took this meal, you know, it's free meal again. He walked away. comes back in the third Monday, and she's in the back now. She's not working the counter, and she comes out from the counter and she sees that he's sitting there eating, and she's like, she comes up to him and says, "Oh, did you forget Meatless Monday again?" And he said, "No, actually that meal you gave me last week was so good I wanted to come back and get more." And that's exactly the type of response that we want to see, we want to hear about, and that is what's happening when these restaurants start adding these options to the menu. And so they now have that Meatless Monday menu that's going very well. There's a very popular restaurant in DC called Founding Farmers that a lot of celebrities go to. They've co-branded a menu with us. We have a bake shop that now every single, that one Sunday a month rather, they go completely vegan, and everything on their menu at this bake shop is completely vegan, from the cupcakes to the cakes and the cookies and the waffles and the pancakes. Everything is vegan, and every Sunday that they've done it, they have sold out of the pre-made cupcakes that they make in the morning. And so these are clearly in-demand items that people are enjoying, and they want these options more and more readily available. And so restaurant outreach is an incredibly effective tool that you guys can't, anyone, you don't have to be affiliated with an organization. You can be an individual just walking in, asking for these options. And if you want more details on how to do it, I can send you materials. We have a guide on our website. We can help you out by sending you additional materials. But this has been an incredibly successful campaign for us. And we've been doing this for several years now and decided we wanted to expand it a little bit and open it up to corporate outreach. What if we reached out to corporations and see if they would start making some of the similar changes we're asking restaurants? So if this is restaurant outreach, this is corporate outreach. Because these are restaurants in different cities. They might be single locations. They might be a very small chain in the DC community. But corporations, extend beyond the borders of our city, and they're nationwide, if not international. And so we decided we're going to take this on. We're going to see, if corporations are going to start responding to this increasing interest in vegan options. And so in 2007, we took on our first corporate campaign. We teamed up with Vegan Outreach, who some of you guys might be familiar with. And we decided to reach out to Morningstar Farms and say, hey, you guys, really awesome vegetarian food company, but a lot of your products have eggs. And an increasing number of consumers are looking for egg-free foods because they're understanding that they're realizing that egg-laying hens are leading really miserable lives inside these tiny wire battery cages. You guys are using eggs from these battery hens, and eggs are bad for our health. People are looking for healthier options. It's more sustainable to offer vegan foods. What do you guys think about, taking eggs out of your products? And at first the company was like, well, it's really interesting. I definitely see there's an interest in that. But I'm not really the decision maker. It's up to other people in the company, and it's this long process of making a decision. And so we kept in contact with them, and one day they said, I bet if they heard from a lot of consumers, that that might actually convince them that this is something important to do. So bam, we came out with a website, morningstareggfacts.com. It was our tool that we used to educate people that Morningstar Farms is using eggs from battery-caged hens, and these hens are leading miserable lives. And here's how you can contact the company to tell them that you want them to start taking eggs out of their products. And within a couple of months of campaigning, the company came back and stated that they are indeed going to reduce significantly the number of eggs that they put in their products. So in 2007, they announced to us that starting in 2008, they're going to start using more than 1 million fewer eggs per year. And since 2008, overall, they have increased their reduction every single year since then, and they have now reduced their use of eggs by more than 4 million eggs overall since we launched our campaign, which means there are 16,000 fewer laying hens suffering inside factory farms because of the reduction in demand that this company is putting on egg industry to produce these products. So this was the first campaign that we had reached out to, and they decided that while they couldn't stop using eggs altogether, they were making this huge reduction in their use of eggs that helps animals tremendously. But also, as they were doing that, several of their items became vegan as a result, and they came out with several new vegan products in the marketplace. And after this campaign, we decided, well, we've got to use this momentum and help other companies get on board with this. So we decided that we're going to contact Light Life Foods. Are you guys familiar with Light Life? Light Life Foods is another company that focuses on their vegetarian food line, owned by ConAgra. And so we contacted Light Life and said, hey, did you guys see what Morningstar Farmers just did? What do you think that? And the company was like, no, you're totally right. It makes a lot of sense. And they were very, very responsive, and we dealt with them for several months. And every time we were in touch, they said, we're working on it. We've got something great going on. You know, it's going to take a while, understandably, to reformulate products and come up with new recipes. But they were very, very positive about it. We never launched a public campaign because they told us that in late 2008, they said beginning in January of 2009, we're going to reduce our use of eggs by over 150,000 annually. And additionally, we're excited about introducing 3 new vegan items to the marketplace. And this company uses a lot fewer eggs than Morningstar Farms does. And so their reduction is less because they don't use quite as many eggs. But not only have they reduced their use of eggs by even more than their original statement told us, they ended up introducing 6 new vegan items to the marketplace in 2009. And so these companies are responding to this interest. And we decided after we contacted Light Life Foods, you know, we have to keep this momentum going. Well, we're gonna reach out and see what we can do with Boca Foods. Are you guys familiar with Boca products? This is another vegetarian food line. This one is owned by Kraft. And we contacted Boca Foods and said, hey, you guys see what these companies are doing? What do you think of that? And they were like, oh, this is very nice. Thank you for sending this information, and we'll consider it and send it on to the appropriate department. And so then I followed up and said, well, you know, actually I was hoping we could have a little more dialogue about this issue. And they were like, okay, thanks, but no thanks. And so we put together a campaign. We teamed up with Mercy for Animals and the Animal Protection and Rescue League and decided to put together this campaign, BocaEggFacts.com. Put together an entire website similar to Morningstar Egg Facts, where people had a tool to contact the company. But before we launched it, we let the company know we were going to launch it, and we did start opening up dialogue immediately within just a few hours of that email. They visited the website. They contacted us and said, you know, we understand that this is a really important issue, and then we said, yeah, well, you know, you certainly hear from consumers so that you'll really understand how important this issue is. 2 weeks into the campaign, and we were really expecting that this campaign, you know, was going to be a very uphill battle. But 2 weeks into the campaign, the company came back and said, please stop. We are getting so many calls and emails from people that, you know, this is all we're doing all day, and we, you know, please, can you put a moratorium on this campaign? And we're going to try to come up with a solution that I think you'll be happy with. And so we said, well, you know, if we put a moratorium on the campaign, we need to let our supporters know why. Can you provide us with a statement that says, you know, that you know, with a deadline stating when you're going to come out with this, you know, really great solution that you think everyone will be happy with, and we'll post it on our website and put a moratorium on the campaign, you know, for a few weeks. So they asked for a month. They said, give us a month, and they gave themselves their own deadline. And said, you know, we're going to have a statement. We understand this is an important issue. We're going to be working on this, and we will have a statement for you about what we're going to do on this issue by March 19th or 20th in 2009. And before their own deadline was up, the company came back and said, okay, fine, we will take eggs completely out of all of our products starting in 2010. And so as of now, Boca Foods is a 100% egg-free company. So we took this momentum, and we had to keep this momentum going. And shortly after that campaign, we rolled out a new campaign. Some of you might be familiar with it. This is more of an East Coast company than a West Coast company, but Dunkin' Donuts, if you guys are familiar with it, they're a major chain in the East Coast, and they don't offer a single vegetarian or vegan option at all. And so we contacted them about this issue. We actually even conducted an undercover investigation inside the facility where they are purchasing their eggs to expose the cruelty that they are supporting through Michael Foods, which is a major egg company in the United States. And we've been working with on Dunkin' Donuts, trying to get them to add vegan options and to stop using eggs in their donuts. We hosted different feed-ins. These are feed-ins that we're using vegan donuts in front of Dunkin' Donuts around the country. In our community, in different cities around the country, people are getting on board and hosting these events. We have literature. We even hosted, in conjunction with their own Create Dunkin's Next Donut contest, we launched our own Create Dunkin's Next Vegan Donut. And Vegan Treats is a bakery in Pennsylvania. We had a contest where people could submit ideas, and then a contest where people could vote on it, and the winning donut was actually made by Vegan Treats and still sold in their stores today. It's like a chai latte kind of cream-filled donut. And so we're still working on that campaign, and you guys can visit our website, duncancruelty.com, to learn more about that. But another restaurant we've been working with is, have you guys heard of Freshie? Oh no, so this is the first one actually we launched after Dunkin' Donuts, is WeLoveSubway.com. Are you guys familiar with this campaign? We love Subway. We decided to take a different approach with Subway, and rather than using a cruelty type of angle we had used with the other companies, using a very positive angle. This company's actually been pretty receptive to issues on this, and we launched WeLoveSubway.com and wants to make it better. Our website allows you to post comments on the site. We have about 3,000 comments on the site now. We just launched this a couple months ago. People who are wanting vegetarian options at Subway. Subway is actually the world's largest restaurant chain. It was recently announced that there are more Subways in the world than there are McDonald's. Wow. And so what our goal is to get Subway to carry a vegetarian deli slice, such as Tofurkey, that they can offer to consumers in every single location. And some people might be familiar with a veggie patty or veggie max that you can get at some Subways, which unfortunately have dairy and egg in them. And so we've been teaming up with Tofurkey to work with them, trying to get these options available in the marketplace, and we need people to visit this website, post your comments, to contact the company. We've been in touch with the company, and we're going to continue working on this campaign. This is our newest campaign that we've launched, so we're really excited about it. We've gotten an incredible amount of support, and we hope that you guys can help us with it, hosting Tofurkey sandwich feed-ins to get people to taste these foods, and to, Subway has this image of offering fast food that's healthy and affordable, and so this fits right in line with their menu. And Tofurkey, any vegan deli slice would be ideal, but Tofurkey seems to be a really great fit for this company, so hopefully the company, when they hear from enough people, will make this decision. We've been working with another restaurant chain called Freshie, which some of you guys might be familiar with. There are several locations in the San Francisco area. They, in DC, just announced that they are offering Gardein chicken and beef in their salads, and if it's successful there, they're going to bring it to the West Coast, hopefully. It's an international chain. They're in Canada and the US. And so if you guys are familiar with Freshie, you need to go into your location in this area and ask them about the vegan options that they have in DC and why they don't have them here yet in California, so that they'll start expanding and bringing them into more stores. Are you guys also familiar with Corn? Corn is a company out of the UK. They are a vegetarian food company. Every single one of their products has egg and dairy in them. And so after we had been working with all these other companies, we started approaching Corn and said, hey, Corn, what's going on? You don't have anything vegan. Maybe a couple decades ago you were cutting edge offering all these vegan foods, but now people are looking for vegan options, and their website readily states, we do not offer products that are suitable to vegans. And so we contacted them, and they immediately said, you are so right. We know this is an important issue, and we were having really great dialogue with them, and they came back with this statement that if you contact Corn, they do have a statement that they will send you back explaining about their vegan options. And in this statement it says that they're grateful to us for bringing to their attention the growing number of consumers demanding completely animal-free foods. And as a result of the discussions that we've been having with them, Marlow Foods, which is their head company, has instituted 2 major areas of technical work. The first area of technical work is to make it a priority to research a completely egg-free product that is not quality compromised. And the second step is to explore ways of reducing the egg usage in all the Corn products. And they are expected, this was last year, as a result of the work, we expect to use a minimum of 1 million fewer eggs in their products in 2010. Well, I'm happy to announce that in addition to all of this, if anybody has been in Anaheim for the Natural Product Expo, Corn officially now has a vegan option available. This is a product this is actually a picture of a picture The product is at the expo right now being sampled. They're still working on finalizing it. This is what the product package will look like. And this will be their very first vegan item. It will be exclusively available in the US starting this summer. So this is real, and this was all based on consumer interest, and they knew that there was a consumer demand for this. They had been getting calls and emails from people about this issue, and they decided to move on it because they understood that this market here in the US is looking for these options, and they wanted to make them available. And so they now have a vegan product that will soon be on the market that you guys can get in Whole Foods and other stores across the country. The important story behind all of this, none of it would have happened if we hadn't asked for it. These things don't just happen on their own. You have to let companies know that these options are of interest to consumers. It's not just vegans who are looking for these options. As statistics have shown, even non-vegetarians are increasingly choosing these foods because they see it as healthier and more sustainable, and they're moving away from meat consumption. And so these products are opening up their marketability to vegans, to vegetarians, to meat eaters, to people with health issues, to people with allergies. So it offers them a broad spectrum in the marketplace, and it only happens if we ask them. And as there are more and more vegans and vegetarians in this country, we do need to speak out and let them know that there is this growing interest and that we do want these options available. And when we ask for these items, we're seeing the response that we're getting from these companies and from our elected officials and from the governments. They are making these changes. They're making these statements that are very, very important for animals. And so the bottom line is that each of us, inside of us, has the power to make a difference. Whether you're an individual, whether you're affiliated with an organization, whether you only have a few hours a week to volunteer in different capacities, each one of us can make a difference for animals. And you need to understand that you do have this power to do that, whether you're convincing a coworker, whether you're getting a family member to join you, whether you get a restaurant to add vegan options. All of these steps are important in making the world a kinder place. And so I hope each one of you feels empowered to go back to your homes, back to your communities, back to your workplaces, and start making some of these changes today. And I have materials here to help that. Contact me. I also have business cards that I'm happy to share with you guys. But by asking for these changes, by speaking out for animals, and feeling confident that we can make a difference in this world, we can all work together to build a kinder world for animals. So thank you guys all for coming. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Teamwork.
We got to work on that.
Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Do you have any other restaurants that you're looking at in their future to campaign? Like McDonald's or any other restaurant chains? I'm just curious,
Well, we're in touch with a lot of different companies, whether it's totally positive dialogue or not quite so positive dialogue yet, but we reach out to a lot of different companies to gauge the response, to see if they are interested, to see if they have vegan options that we might not have known about, or to see what's going on, which is something that we're doing with a lot of different restaurant chains. Some are regional in the DC area. Now that we have, actually this weekend I was in Los Angeles to launch our Los Angeles office. And so we're going to be working in the Los Angeles area, working on restaurants to add more vegan options, and some of these will be chains that are more broad in California and making a difference. And so we're going to need activists everywhere in California to call these restaurants and ask for these options. So hopefully that will be coming up in the next couple of months. You'll be seeing campaigns that are more specific to this region with some smaller restaurant chains. But the major companies that we're working with now are Subway and Dunkin' Donuts. And as I mentioned, Freshie is in a chain that they do have restaurants here in California, in the San Francisco Bay Area, I believe. I think even in Sacramento. They have the vegan options in DC, and they're waiting to see how successful it is and if there are consumers in other markets asking for them. And so we need people to go into their Freshie or call their Freshie and say, do you have these vegan options that they have in DC? We want these here. And by asking for these options, we'll be making them more and more available.
Do you guys have an email list so that you can send these campaigns out to all of us?
We do, and if you sign up right over here, you can join our national e-newsletter list. We have these action alerts going out all the time. Yeah, and we also have alerts on our Facebook if you guys are on Facebook. This is my personal Facebook, or you can join Compassion Over Killing. These alerts are sent out all the time as well. So you can sign up here for the e-newsletter list or check us out online at cok.net, where you can also sign up.
Eric, I'm wondering, with the compassion over killing, maybe somebody in the audience would have a response to this as well besides yours. What has been your experience thus far, or is COK having any kind of dialogue or any connection or relationship with the slow food movement?
Yeah.
It seems to be a surging movement that people are really passionate about and getting into, and there's some really positive aspects to it, but it's still very animal-based, animal-eating-based.
Yeah, and we haven't worked very much with them. I'm familiar, and I know there's slow food movement in our area, local food movements as well, that are also not necessarily very animal friendly, but they're more focused on locally based products. We haven't, and I don't know if anyone here in the room has worked with the slow food movement on trying to veganize it or make it more vegan friendly.
Or what has been your experience?
It's definitely a message. I give a PowerPoint presentation on called Eco Eating, and it's with the environmental aspects of animal agriculture. And my main message is when we think about animal eating, we often think about environmentally eco eating. People think local first, then organic, and then vegan. We really need to switch that around. I mean, vegan is so much more important and so much more impactful. But
and there's a study done by researchers at Carnegie Mellon that found that going vegan for 1 day a week did more to help protect the planet than eating local foods 7 days a week.
right, buying all locally sourced, yeah.
And so that is, yeah.
So I give this PowerPoint presentation once every 2 months in the area. So if you have a group, or if anyone has an audience for me to give this presentation to, it's one way to get more of that message out.
Erica,
Yeah.
have you ever thought of getting together with some organizations that are promoting non-GMO foods to make sure that the foods that you're hoping will go vegan will also not be GMO?
We have not. We focused specifically on trying to reduce the animal products out there and getting as many vegan options available as possible. So that's our main focus, is getting animal ingredients reduced in the marketplace and vegan options increasingly available in the marketplace. That's been our primary focus.
I would hate to see, Korea's vegan, but guess what? It's got GMO
There's a
soy
Boca
and corn in
campaign.
it.
There's a Boca campaign right now, and that we were writing all these letters to Boca because they started using some GMO ingredients.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
Would you talk just about the TV campaign, TV ad campaign?
Oh, sure.
Interested in doing that here?
Yeah, absolutely. Some of you might be familiar with it, as Brad was just saying. Compassion Over Killing in about 2004 launched a television commercial campaign. We now have seven different 30-second commercials exposing factory farming abuses and directing viewers to our website, triveg.com. And we started out airing these commercials in our local community in DC and got a tremendous response, and we started to buy up market spots in different areas of the country, in about 20 different cities on MTV stations. And the campaign has since grown. We actually air nationally now in hundreds of cities in the US. We have 30-second commercials that air a couple times a year on Animal Planet, Comedy Central, and MTV. And these are commercials that show factory farming footage. And like I said, every commercial ends with a call to visit our website, triveg.com, where they can learn more about vegetarian eating. And we have seen, the response to this campaign is absolutely phenomenal, because this is sometimes the first time these viewers have seen inside a factory farm. And we get emails and calls from people all the time who have seen these. And we see the traffic to the website just absolutely skyrocket when these commercials are on the air. And the requests for literature are just going through the roof. Every season it just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And like I said, we get the emails from people. We get what we call love and hate mail. We do get some people who are not so happy to see these commercials on the air. But even when we do get hate mail, and it's often very foul-mouthed with a lot of typos, but we find them entertaining. But it's also an opportunity for us to open up dialogue, and we see it as a victory in and of itself because they just watched a 30-second commercial of factory farming, and then they went to our website, tryveg.com, and then you have to scroll all the way down to the bottom to find our email address. So they just spent all that time looking at our website. But the love mail, the positive feedback that we get is really what is empowering us to keep this campaign going. We have 14-year-old girls saying they saw this commercial when they got home from school and they had to throw out their hamburger because they were so horrified, and they now showed all of their friends what was going on. They're all vegetarian now, and they're trying to convince other people to watch this footage. And we've had people emailing us say that they asked their mom if they could go vegetarian, and now their whole family is starting to reduce their animal consumption. And so it's really had such an impact on people. People who are just watching television and commercials, they're seeing commercials for jeans and makeup and sneakers and then factory farming footage, and they're mesmerized by it, and it really, really is making a powerful impact. And so, as Brad was saying, if you guys are interested in airing, and these commercials air nationwide through Comcast, so I don't know what the market here is in the area, but if it's Comcast and these commercials are running here, but we can get more ads on the air in your regional area in the market. And these commercials we'll give you for free. Like, we've created them, and we want them to air as many times as possible. So we'll share this, these commercials with anybody who wants to get them aired, whether it's on cable, whether it's college TV, whether you just want to show your friends. And they are on YouTube, so you can see them online. So we'll gladly share these commercials with anybody who wants to use them.
I'm sorry, do you know about how profitable or not the BK veggie burger is at Burger King, and if there's movement to try to make that vegan?
Well, I know when they first launched it was vegan, and then something happened with their distributor and some taste tests, and now it has animal products in it, and it's nationwide, so it's available everywhere that Burger King exists. I don't know the success of it. I think that's a really great question, and we have toyed with the idea of trying to reach out to them in a serious manner and working on a campaign. It's such a major, major corporation that we want to do it as strategically as we possibly can. But I don't know what the sales rate is. I know McDonald's also launched a veggie burger for a while, a few years ago. It's available in most of California as well as Manhattan and parts of Canada, and I think their marketing for that was not, up to par with the marketing of their animal foods, and so they pulled it off the shelves. But I think that, we're seeing this major surge of interest in the mainstream media, from Oprah talking about going vegan, bringing her whole staff on board for a week going vegan, and Kathy Freston being on her show, and Tal Ronan being on shows with cooking demos. Ellen talking about veganism very openly during her show, and we're seeing, I think, this growing movement where this is becoming more and more popular in the mainstream culture, people looking for these options. And so I think companies like Burger King and McDonald's are eventually going to have to come on board to meet the demand.
Martha Stewart's going to be doing a vegan show as well this month, I think at the end, last week of March coming up.
Martha Stewart goes vegan.
Bill Clinton?
Bill Clinton, yeah, he had major health issues, reversed his heart disease, and he's, yeah, absolutely.
Just to clarify, she's just having a vegan show.
Yeah, right, for the day, for one show. Are there any other questions? You guys want to pick up some material, sign up for our list? I'm happy to answer questions afterwards as well. I think we might have some cupcakes in the back. They're vegan. Hope brought them. Thank you guys all for coming.